In this video, I'm going to show you workflow using Rhythm 8. But before that, let me mention the main features of Rhythm 8 and what is Rhythm 8 about. Rhythm 8 is an extension of Autodesk Revit. It was meant to be combining of several tools that simplify working in Revit and also automate most of the functionality that you use every day. Rhythm 8 also is a great tool for those who are new to Autodesk Revit, since it requires a shorter learning curve. In order to master all the functionality of Autodesk Revit, it needs a longer learner curve. But Rhythm 8, you can only need to learn these functionalities here. With these functionalities, with these commands, you can pretty much do most of the work that you routinely do every day. So once you install Rhythm 8, you will see it in the ribbon. So this is the Revit ribbon, and you will click on Rhythm 8, and this is the main ribbon for Rhythm 8. I'm going to go through each one of these separately and give you a general idea about it. Rhythm 8 has these command prompts that will display the prompts for all the commands, and they will display some results. First of all, this is the setup. So if you want to create a new project or open an existing project, you use this setup here. Here is the about, help, and this is a language, set language. So Rhythm 8 supports 63 different languages that you can pick from. And also it allows you to update. So for instance, you can, this is the default, this is the English, and this is the localized language. So let's try something like a different here, maybe Turkish, then update. You need to set it first. So now, right now, it will switch to Turkish language. The ribbon, and next time, here what it says that it will take longer in order to translate all the ribbons, all functionalities, and then after that it will save it to a file, a text file that you can distribute all over across the board. The ribbon will not change until next time you run Revit again. And you see now it takes a little bit of time to do the translation for this, but next time it will not take that long. So in here, this is the update. Now it takes a little bit longer. Next time it will not take that long because it updates the text file. So in here, this is the English, and this is the corresponding translation. All you have to do is just type, highlight the one that you want to change, and you can type in here your own local language translation. So someone who understands English can, if he doesn't see this is not the exact translation or the one that he can come up with a different or a better translation. He can write it here and say update and then save it to the file. Here, this is a filter, so you type in here, it will filter out. And here, this is replace it. So if one word occurs in the translation many times, you can replace it globally, and then you save it. Make sure you save it after you do the changes. So let's go back to English. Okay. So here, now this is what it says in all the languages. Okay, so now it created, when you close Revit will create a text file, a language.txt in the location where Rhythm 8 installed. I will show you. It should be in here, somewhere in here. I'm sorry, this is the project. Somewhere in here. So if you keep changing, so this is the language file that is going to create, and you can just hand over this file to all the users. If you have a company and you have many users, And if you keep changing the language, it will make backup files for all the previous languages file. Okay, so this is set language. The sign in. So the sign in allows you to sign in into the system. So in here, if you downloaded or have a subscription through Autodesk App Store, you don't need to sign in using this utility. If you have a subscription through the company MDC Software Solutions, you need to sign in after you activate your license. So if you are an Autodesk, you downloaded the Remo 8 through Autodesk App Store, you can only use this report issue and comments, where you can here report any issues if you find any issues, or you have suggestions or any comments on the product. We really appreciate if you your feedback will be very helpful, and you hit send. So Autodesk customers only utilize this. If you're not subscribed through Autodesk, you will need to sign in, and you can change the password, and you can create an account, transfer license. Transfer license is not supported for Autodesk customers. So this is the setup. This is the boundary. So when you create a building boundary, that will help you generate column grids automatically. This is the column grids where you can create and modify. This is the stick frame, 3D stick frame. This will be very helpful when you do modeling in 3D rather than doing in 2D and go back and view it in 3D. If you can see here, by default, Remo 8 is shipped with sample Imperial RMV. That's a family. We'll see that in a minute. A family view file that you just we ship that to get you started until you know how to create your own customized family view file, which is like a specification file. So it comes automatically. You'll see it here. We have one for Imperial, one for metric. Once you just click that one, it will load the other categories. So this default shipped file will have these categories. Each one will have its own family type, and we'll see how you can create your own. So once you have that, you can start modeling. This is you model, like regular, let's say columns, like if you do in regular Revit. This is we'll see that when you have a project managed project. So it's just a warning that this is not a project managed project. So you can, keep inserting this. You switch to a different one, and you gotta make sure that it's loaded. Sometimes, depending on the template, if you try to load the structural element in an architectural template, it might not load, and you can't keep, inserting this. It's either in 2D or 3D. We'll see that as well. This is modify, and these are options for modeling, group, start and end. I will see that during the workflow. So let's start the workflow. So you start by creating a new project. So this is we're gonna create a blank project with the new command. The new command will allow you to create a new project. The open will open an existing project. Manage will allow you to add users and assign files to users. So we're gonna create a project here on this folder, and you can, after you create those those are project file Revit project files that you can put them on a network or on the cloud afterwards. So we will go to D and projects and create new. So we'll call it ABC projects. We'll make that Imperial. You click here, make sure that okay. So here for the project manager, you need to assign a password so nobody else can go inside this project management and change settings. So I'm gonna put some simple password, confirm, and this is maybe AJ Dixon or something, the project manager. Okay, so now you will see these are activated, all these options here. So the first thing, you create the project files. So when you click on that one, you need, this is the templates. So to create, to add the templates, we need to go to program data and auto disk, and we go to Revit and templates and Imperial. This will load these templates. So you need to specify the templates, whether they're architectural, structural, or mechanical. So I'm going with the default construction. So at the beginning, we need to create shared files for everyone to use, like property lines, building boundaries, column grids, and such. So you need this one button here you can use to create that. So depending, now it's very important to specify the templates, otherwise the Revit files will not be created correctly. It tells you here that it will create these files. You hit yes, and now it's generating those files in this folder here. So it created this, and these are regular Revit project files. Now it's done. You can add your own files. So these are shared files. By default, you can create them so everyone can use them. So you can, one file would be the property line for the building. The other file would be, you can import. We'll see that, how to import those files. So this way the project will be managed, and the whole idea is that everyone will be using the same property line, the same column grids. So the project files will be in sync as far as the locations and coordinates. And so these are the disciplines. You can add your own files. So you have default disciplines, architectural, structural, and each one will have proposed file names. And you can, if you want to add them, you can highlight it here and right click, and you have options. You can add, create, or you can drag and drop like this, and you can go columns. Now once you do that, it created, I think you can also go doors and highlight it, and so you have options here. You can add root with the name if you would like to add a like a folder that doesn't this list doesn't have it, or you can add a subfolder under it. You can add a file if a file does not exist in this list. Here you can add your own file name, or you can just drag and drop. So that nothing else. That this sample workflow will focus mainly on a structural side rather than architectural. So we will create, you can either highlight here and right click, add selected route, or you can drag and drop. In here we will create the, before that we need to change that to structural. Now this is very important. So now the file will be created with structural template. Structural, you can do that, drag and drop, or you can highlight the file, highlight the file name, and come here and say add selected file. Now it's generated that. It actually generated the file on your hard drive if you go and look. And so now you will see architectural and structural. So those are the two files we created. And you can also add an existing file. If you have an existing file already modeled, you can include it in this project, new project that you're creating. We will create maybe floors. We got foundation, drag and drop. We can add walls to architectural, add selected file. Again, we need to change, let's delete that. We made a mistake. We need to change the template. So we need to go back to default or construction default and try again. Add selected file. Maybe one for windows. You can drag and drop, or and one for doors. So let's say these are all the files, the project files that you're gonna be using for this particular project. Of course, you can always come back and add or delete any other project files. The next step is, after you created the project files, you need to, if you want, if it's you want assign files to certain users, you need to create the users first. So you can add a new user, a password for each one. So I'm gonna make it simple too. And this user, maybe we call it XYZ, any name. That's a username, and you can give it a name, location, all the information about this user. I create another one, we'll call it, and let's stick with the same password so we don't forget it. And this is ABC user. Again, you can assign name, job location, blah blah blah, and once you give it a name, like for XYZ, maybe we call it Alex, and then after you add all the information, make sure that you hit the set. So you're setting all this information to this selected user. If you have another user, we'll call it John, and make sure you can add all the information here. Make sure that you do set. And here's, you want to reset the password. So you highlight the user and you give it a new password here, and you hit reset. It will change the password for this particular user. So now we have two users, and we have the files. If you want to assign files to certain users with a password, so only this user can open this file and modify it, and no other users that's not authorized to work on this file will not be able to even open the file. So assign, we created two users, and these are the files that we have created. So you highlight which user you want, and then I'm gonna add this to, and you can assign one file to one or more users. It's all up to you. So property line will go to XYZ. This one will add it, and you can remove it. You can highlight here if you want to remove it, and then building boundary. And if you want add ABC to building boundary as well, you can do that. And let's go with structural columns. We're not going to add all of them, just to give you an idea. Okay. So we got that. These are the options. This is all project manager can do. Track hours, that if you want to track all the hours spent on this project on each file, it will give you a report. This one here at the end of the project or during the project will give you how many hours have been spent for each project file. This is detailed material report if you want details, or you want only the elements, or the elements that has mass or has material. So you check if you want a detail that has everything, a report that for everything in the project file, you check that. This is the project units, imperial metric. We'll be working on imperial. This is the date format for the reports. It's month, day, or day, month, year. So these are basic, very simple basic options. Report, we'll see that at the end. So this, you will just, all you have to do is just open where the project is, and it will list all the hours spent on this particular project. You can do that at the end of the project or at any time during the project. So now we did the new. Next time you load this, if you are a user, you can use open. If you work on more than one project, you can open one of them. If you are the manager, you use this to maybe change all these one or more of these settings. Family view editor, we'll see that in a different when we go deep. This is if you remember, we talked about the types here that it's loaded by default, so you can start modeling quickly. Here you can this one will allow you to create your own family view editor. We'll see that later on. So that's about this file. When you load it next time, you will see the when the project is all the files are there, and next time you load it, you will see where the files here and the recently opened. You can quickly open the file from. You will see that later on. So once we did that, the next step is to create the building, the property line. In order to create the property line, so you load this, now you open the project, and next time it will remember where it was. So here we working on this project, so you will see it here. You can easily double click here, and it will open the file for you. So I'm looking for the property line file, double click, and here you see now because we assigned this to XYZ, you have to type in the password, so XYZ can only work on this file. And you go site. Okay, let me talk about this start and end. So it says here start recording elements to group, here end recording elements to group. So this is very helpful to start recording any elements or model lines or any entity that you place in the file. So you start by clicking start. When you end, click end, and it will allow you to give it a unique name for these particular ones. Everything that you have added to the project file, it will be recorded, and you can assign a name. So next time you can use that name to reference those elements. For now, for instance, as an example, we want to group the property line, or we're going to model now, so we can import it into a different file. So all you have to do is just start, and you can see here these are the messages. You can always read them. So you click start, and for now we go to massing and we'll do the property line. So this is the first thing you would do in any project, property line. Then you will from it you will create building boundary. From it you will create the column grids, and then you will create the stick frame, 3D stick frame, and you can start placing elements quickly. So for instance, we will do a simple property line, something very simple, maybe something like that. Okay, okay, now you go to Rev8, and you make sure that you hit end. When you click end, now this pops up, and it allows you to give it a name. We'll see the local groups. This is like a local group, and you have categories here. So the default is profile, so we have in a profile. If you want to group, let's say you're placing columns, so you click start, and then you start placing columns. When you click end, you come back here and you highlight columns and you give it a name. So for now, this is part of the profile, and new, we call it property grid. I'm sorry, property line. Any name you can give it. So now we hit OK. So it tells you that these are have been created. Make sure you save it. You save the file. So now if you load this again and you go to profile, you should be able to see this here, and you see the contents of how many entities in there. So this project file will have the property line. Next we'll go to building boundaries. This one maybe have two. See, this has two. Users can open them. I will go with ABC, and this is the password. You go to Revo 8, and in the boundary here, you go to import property line. You import, so you go where the property line, and now you see it here. You create. Okay, from this we will create a building boundary. So you click on the building boundary, you give it a name. You can have more than building boundary. Let's say you have a building that is 2 sections or 3 sections. Each one will have its own. You can have a property line or 2 property lines or 1 or more building boundaries and property lines. So we call this main building. Any name you can give it. The dimension offset, this will help you automatically generate the column grids. So this is the offset for the dimensioning, the column grids. We'll leave it at 10 feet. You can give it a color, any color you like. And this is the line weight. Typically it will be more than 1, so you can distinguish it from the other lines. I will give it an 8. And then you can read here always. You can always look for prompts here. Set a property line to create a building boundary from. So you select with a window, and then you click finish, and this is your building boundary. Okay, so you save that. So now I have a file, the building boundary file. So I open, next is the column grids. So I have one of the shared files I created at the beginning, it's column grids. You can double click. So here, this one, because I did not assign any user, so anybody can open it and work on it. So now I can both import the property line as I did. Property lines, create, then I can import boundary. So this is the building boundary, this is the main building boundary, create. So as you can see, you create once, and everyone that wants to start placing elements can easily import these. So this way everybody would be working at the same locations with the same coordinates. That would make it a lot easier at the end of the project. So this is the column grids. So you go here, this is how you create the column grids. Of course, you can always use the Revit grids. These are what this creates is exactly the same here, but it will manipulate them, and also it will generate corresponding model lines in 3D. Okay, so we go here. You can always refresh if there are grids, column grids in the file. So X and Y. So if you want to create the column grids and the X-axis here, so you check the X-axis. You say add. Now again, you can always look at the prompt here. So specify insertion point on screen. All you have to do is just go here and snap to this point. So as you can see, it automatically generated the column grid for you. And if you would like to specify a reference distance, so you need to exit out and specify, let's say I want to create a column grid 12 feet from this point. If it's 0, if this is 0, and when you click here, it allows you to click anywhere and it will create the column grid at the exact point you snap to. But if you have a value here more than 0, so 12 feet, it will ask you. So here specify insertion point on screen. So you want to create another column grid is 12 feet in the X-axis. So you click this one and it's automatically creating this at 12 feet. If you have something like this, you know that a column grid should go in here. You can just put this back to 0 and say add, and you click here. So I'm just going to go through it quickly like this, something like that. And now I finished the X axis column. I go to Y, and you can see here it's displays the name, the column grid name, and the distance between this is distance between 1 and 2, this is distance between 2 and 3, and of course the last one would be 0. So I go to Y, and then I do the same thing. Something like this, it doesn't need a distance, so I say OK, add, and I snap here. If you want to change this to be alphabetic, you can exit out and just double click and make it A. You want to go like A, B, C. Here I don't know that I know that I need to go like, let's say 15 feet. So you type in 15 and you click here, and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna go quickly, you get the idea. Add, so you go here, pretending that I know the exact dimensions. I'm just gonna make it something like that. So you can see you could quickly generate the column grids, and of course you can, if you have a sloped or curved, you can use the Revit's grid command, which is the same exact. These are exact column grids in Revit. The next step is to do, so now you can switch between them. It will display the grids and the distance. We'll see how you can manipulate them using this interface. So the next thing is dimension. This will automatically create dimensions for the grids, and you select them with a window and set finish south, and it generated the dimensions. You do here and finish, it's east, and here you can see the dimensions. 2 points, this is exactly the same as you would do the grids, but it will ask you you know, two exact points, or you want created, and it will intersect it with the building boundaries. So the building boundary helps you quickly place column grids, so you don't have to click the 2 points and adjust the you know, the column grids around. Here you can let's say you want to move this B. Instead of moving it, you can use this here and go east or west. So I'm gonna move it 1 foot to the east. So you can see you can manipulate those. And when we create the 3D space frame, after you model the building and you want to move this grid a foot, it will update the 3D space frame and update all the elements, the columns and beams and everything. So this is going to be very powerful when you do a model building modification, if you make changes during the modeling. The hide and show, if you are in 3D. So now we created this. Once you use the Revit 3D, not the Revit 3D, the Revit 3D, because this will generate a view, and anytime you switch between plan view and a 3D view. If you make changes in the plan view, the grids, it will regenerate it accordingly here. So let's hide those levels. So now it generated those are not real grids, but they are exact representation of the column grids in 2D. So we can save this drawing or this project file, and now we have 3 files. We created 3 files: the property line, the building boundaries, and the grids. The next one is to create the levels. So we can create all the levels in one file, and then let's say one user would work on the first 4 floors or the 3rd floor. They can import levels as well as the column grids and everything. So we create all the levels in this project file. Let's close this one. So you can see here, this is a project file with the default levels here. Go to Revit 8. So you go to levels, this one, level manager. Here you can do almost everything that we would do in levels without touching the screen. You can, let's say this level I want to delete. You can delete it. You can change the name and the elevation. So I'm gonna change this one would be ground floor, and let's leave the elevation. You hit apply. You can see it change it here and change it here. I want to change this to first floor or first level. We'll call it floor, and we can change the elevation to, let's say the first one is 17 feet. Hit apply. So now I can also change the names here. Now I want to create our building would be maybe 15 floors on top of these. So you go here, number of levels, the default is 6, so you can have up to 119. With the first one, this is 120. So we have 2. Let's create 13 more, and then this is the new level height. This is top of floor. We will make the default is 12, so it will generate 13 levels with the height, each one 12 feet. Create, ask you. Now it will generate them here and here. So you can rename it. So this is first floor, so you can start level 2, 3, 4, 5. You go here and select all of one and rename. You're gonna start with 2. Now it will rename them here and here. If you want to change the elevation of any of these, or you want to highlight one or more and you want to change the height of them, you can click this height here. So as we did, you can always, any one of these, you can change the name and the levels. So that's about it for this. Now we created all the levels in one project file. We save it. Make sure you save it. Now when you save it, you will see the time spent here. Any time on one particular or any project file you do a save, it will update. So now this project file we spent 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and this is the hour. Okay, so we did the levels. Next is to do the 3D stick frame. So this is already one of the shared files we created at the beginning. Double click, and this one we will first we will update the levels. Let's say we're gonna work on all the levels. So we go to level here, and you can delete because you're gonna import. You can delete the default ones. We will keep the first level because you cannot delete all the levels. You have to have one, and this one we'll just rename it to ground level because we're not gonna ground floor, and leave it 0. And then now we are left with this one. You can import now. You can import the grids that you just created. Import, and let's see, import from levels. Yeah, this one. Okay, so I'm gonna check all. So you check and uncheck, and you uncheck the ground floor because it's already there in here, and they create. So now you imported all the levels. Now you import everything from property again. So this is the beauty about having all these basic or essential or the important files for the building. Create the levels and boundary. Okay, and import for the column grids. Import, you go to grids. Now it tells you everything here. Create, so it tells you 15 grids and 13 dimensions. So now you're importing this. So every project files you're gonna be working on, you can import all of these. So this is great to make sure that everyone on the same page, everyone is modeling at the same locations and everything. Okay, so next is the 3D, creating the 3D space frame or stick frame. We can go to 3D. Again, we can hide those levels. Okay, so I have my column grids and building boundary, everything. Two ways you can generate this 3D stick frame. It's automatic or manual. So we'll do the automatic for now. So automatic will use the combinations of the building boundary and the column grids to create the stick frame. So if you're sure that you have column grids at every intersection between a column grid and another column grid, or a column grid with the building boundary, this will automatically generate the stick frame accordingly. If you're not sure, then you will use the manual stick frame that can manually create all the stick frames, and then once you do one floor, you can copy to another floors. For structural, for steel structure buildings, typically the columns will extend beyond the level. So there's an functionality here that you can specify extensions. So I'm gonna, what you do is to, let me expand this one. You can select the levels that you want to extend the column, and then you can specify how long, how much. So 1 foot, and you hit set. Now 15 levels. If you go here, you'll see the column for all these levels will extend beyond the level elevation with 1 foot. So in order to create, you can create automatically based on your selection here. So if you want to create everything, you can highlight with the shift button. You can highlight this. So it's a combination between levels and the column grids, and all you have to do now, if you have more than one building boundary, it will list them here, and you can apply this to a particular building boundary. So you hit create, and it generated this for all the levels. And you can see here, you see that it extended each one, and the following one will start from the extension, and so on and so forth. Okay, and you will have a little bit extension here. You could have, if you don't want that, then when you generated when you change the extension, you didn't want to select the 14th floor, so you will have this only stops here. So this is one option, and let's undo this. Another option is to do it one by one. So maybe for all the levels, you want to do it for all the levels here. You want to do it only for column grid 1. If you want to do it one by one, so it will generate it here again with the column extension. So you want to do it one by one, piece by piece. You can do that, or you want to do all of them at once. So let's create that, and it's one other thing also, if you want to import the stick frame, you can also use the start and end. So next time in another file, the project file, you can import this stick frame as a whole or part of it. So you can generate part of maybe the first, you can generate the first 4 floors and save them with a name, and you can follow that by another 2 or 3 floors, save them with a different name, and then somebody would, another user would only import the first 4 floor, and so on and so forth. But I'm gonna generate. So before you do anything, you want to record that into a local group, you have to click the start button here. So make sure you click the start button and make this as a habit, because when you start modeling, you wanna like you creating columns for the first floor. Before you start modeling, just click start. When you finish, click end and give it a name. This is very, very convenient. If you have a massive model, you can, instead of going and selecting on the graphic screen, it's very very tedious to do that. Having a name, a unique name for certain group of elements. And by the way, this is not geometric grouping. This is just a name that you can reference those elements. So now it tells you here elements grouping started. So now even if you automatically create it, it will remember that. And when you hit end, so now you see stick frame and you give it a name. Now if you did the first 3 floor, you can call it floor 1 to 3. So we will call this just a stick frame, since it's everything. So now I saved it. You make sure now it tells you how many entities. Those are the number of, those are model lines. So you can save it. So I have how many now? The stick frame, property line, live is good. Custom profiles, if you have a custom family types, you can create that in here. Or if you have Linko 7 and you're using it in AutoCAD and generating custom families and import that into Revit, you can add those over there so you can reference them when you do the family view. Okay, so we got let me show you the manual. So let's go back. We didn't have a manual here. So a project manager, now I want to add a new file. So project manager will open the file, and now since it's a modification mode, you have to put the password here so nobody else can go and make changes. Only the manager can do that. So I go here, I want to add a new file called, I'm gonna highlight here, add file. I call it manual stick frame. Okay, no template. You see, you need to load the template. So now it remembers it. Okay, again, it's commercial. We make it construction. Add a file. Stick frame manual. So generate stick frame manual. If close. Okay, so I open here. I have the stick frame manual. I open it. So I do the same thing. I go here. I'm gonna import everything. That's just not important. I'm just gonna show you how to use the manual, because we're gonna be using the automatic stick frame during the workflow. So just I can add, this is just temporary, I can delete this one. I can add another maybe 5 floors, maybe 10. That's all I need here. So I can import property line, import again property line, import boundary, building boundary, import grids, create. Okay, so I have this. Go to 3D and hide those and make sure that okay, so I have this. Now I go to manual again, so I have the levels, the current level. So let's say I can create columns. I'm gonna create the first floor columns. You can use the levels here, or you can use the exact height for columns, beams, brace, and you can copy floor. So I'm gonna be using all of the check all and intersection. So this is the intersection between column grids and the column grid with the building boundary. So I can do like this and it will generate it for me, or I can insert it anywhere here. And the exact height, this is exact height. I have a video specifically for this one, so I'm just gonna go through this since it's not part of the workflow. So this is a video for, you can always do, if you highlight here, if you press F1, it will go to a website that has that video to explain how this functionality works in details. So this is kind of give you an idea how the difference between the manual frame creation and the automatic creation. So please check the video for this. It has more details about it and how to do the beam and braces, and you can do one grid here and you can copy it over, or you can work on one floor. You know, if you don't have, if the actual columns and they do not follow the exact column grids there, so you do one floor and then use a copy floor to copy to all other levels. So we're not going to spend much time on this since it's not part of the workflow. Please go to the manual video here that has all the details. So again, when you click save, it shows you the time spent on that one, so we close it. So this is the manual, and we will go to this one. So now we have the column grids and the stick frame. So Revmo 8 allows you to model normally as you would do in Revit without using stick frames. If you're using this button here, so this button will it's exactly as you would insert the elements from any one of this ribbon here. So for instance, if you do this, then you can start modeling in both 3D or 2D. We just undo that. But if you prefer to use the stick frame, you have the options of using these two. So this is one, it will place whatever you select here. So as we see, this is the one that comes with the Revmo 8, the family view, and when you select it, it will give you categories, and you can create your own. We'll see that when we use the family view editor. So this is the default one that comes with the Revmo 8. So columns, and when you click columns, it will give you the corresponding ones. Structure columns, and these are the structure columns. So you can use these to place elements. This is a normal one without the stick frame. This is the one that requires a stick frame. This is a single insertion or single placement. This is multiple. You can place here many elements, or the whole building. There's another way, more detailed or more extended way, is a family view. So it's either you can place from these three commands, or you can use the family view to place the elements. So I'm gonna go here, and this is exactly the same. So here you have all the files. So when you create your own file, it should be listed here. If it's not in the folder where Revmo 8 is placed, you will have to load it where you create it. Okay, so let's refresh, and you can see here you have the same exact. So those are the categories that are listed here. Okay, and here if you have like a subcategory, you can see it. Let's see if there's any like in here. So you have a structure column, you have concrete, you have light gauge steel, and you have all of these. In here, it will list all of them. There's no subcategories here. So this is more detailed. And the difference also, when you click here, you might get more options. Like for instance, for a wall, So you have insert, single wall, profile, continuous, or multiple. So multiple is the same as this one, insert is the same as this one, and you have, if you have a continuous or curve or profile, and this is set as default. If you want to make this as your default wall, if you want to do automatic generation of the frame, like when we do this one. So okay, so this is, you can do it from here or from here. So to start modeling, let's open from structural. So let's see, let's see, we want to do the columns, structure columns. So we open, this is a structural template. So again, we can do the same thing. This one has XYZ 1 2 3 4, and let's close this one, go to here, and let's do 3D, right? Or you go to level 1, and this again, import everything, and we will import also the frame. So we can do the columns, import property lines, do the same thing, create. It will put it on the site, I think, because it's a structural. And then import boundary, building boundaries, create, import grids, create. Okay, this one did not get the dimensions. You can always go here and do the same thing as the dimensions here. Once you have the grids, you can use this command to create the dimensions automatically, or you can use the Revit. So now I have this, I need to also get the frame in order to start modeling. So import, this is import level. Let's do the levels as well. Import levels. We will change the name again. This one, we will delete this one and change this to ground floor nose, and then import levels, check all, uncheck this one, create. So they put them on under floor plan because this is a structural template. Frame, we need to import the frame. We go to stick frame, and there's a stick frame here, create. So now it imported the stick frame. So you can create the columns here, and another file you can create the framing. You can another one you can create foundation, or you can create all of them in here. In this tutorial, we'll do everything in here, so we don't spend too much time. Okay, so we have this. We can start modeling now. You can model from here, or if you prefer, you can model from here. So we want to do the columns. You can collapse this one here, and you can always refresh. We will see that when you make modification to the element view. So structure column you have here. So we'll do steel. So let's say you want a W shape for all the building. Let's try the single one first. So single, that you can see here, pick frame column by rectangle selection. You can do manually, so you do a rectangular. So you see here it generated the column, and you can notice that it followed the extension. And you can keep insert column, you can keep adding, for everything. So this is one by one. And here also one of the differences that you can change the properties or the parameters for modeling in here while you're modeling. In here you will have to change this in advance before you model from here. So let's say this is 90 degrees, the rotation angle, and it will z offset will go down to -9 foot, and insert. So let's see what happens here. So it applied 90 degrees and it extended it to the elevation to 99, and you can keep adding, you know, until you cancel out, right click cancel, or you hit escape. So this is the manual insertion. The same thing applies to let's say the framing. So I can go here, and again, so bid angle, and here's justification top, center, bottom. Beam, you can see the difference here. Pick a point. So beam is different from columns. Instead of rectangle selection, you just click with the left button here. So for example, you want to change the justification, so you make it center here, insert. So you can see, you know, you can keep adding, and so on and so forth. So this is the single insertion. So if you want to do that, you can use this. Let's undo, and you see the multiple. Let's go back here again and shade it. If you want to do it from here, same thing. So you do this, but this will, you know, since you change it here, so the options would, remember, you have to come back here and change it, reset it to the initial values. So same thing, you can use this, or you can use here. So multiple, so let's try multiple. So let's go back here and make it 0, and this is 0. Hit apply, close. So multiple, so you have to make the selection here before you click any of these. So I'm gonna do the same thing, maybe this one. Multiple. Here you have the options to check any levels or any grids. You can check all, uncheck all, you can check all, uncheck all. So if you want to do columns for all the building, just for the fun of it, so you check everything and you hit insert, it will model everything. Okay, so it puts in columns in every, and that's the whole idea about stick frames. One of them. The other good thing about stick frame, using 3D stick frames, is the visibility control, that you can isolate certain grids, certain levels. If you have a massive model, it will help you a lot to do that. And of course, if you actually using a real project, a big project, you will split the projects into many project files. But if you use the import for the property grid and the column grids and everything, that will guarantee that everybody will be on the same page. Everybody will be using the same coordinates and the same location of the building components. I'm just giving an idea of how you use these, and of course you will use a different strategy of creating a new project, massive project. So you want to do the framing, you go here. Of course you can do the same thing from here too. So for this is steel, this is the framing, I can do it from here. So multiple. So if I do everything again, first floor at 17, all the grades, this will take some time because it will create all the beams. I hope I should change the justification to remember. The last one was the center, I guess. We'll see. I will still thinking. It's doing a lot of calculations. but it's using the geometry of the 3D stick frame to place the elements. Almost done. Okay, so it looks like it did everything there, and yes, it remembered uh, its center. It's not top, but the good news is so as you can see here, it generated uh, all the beams with the center justification. In order to adjust that for all the beams, you can use the frame, and this is a visibility control for the stick frame, and this is the second powerful feature of the or the advantage of using 3D stick frames. So it's either you can visibility control and also modifying. So let's say here it lists all the levels, and here it lists all the column grids. So I want to list all the elements here. So I check all the levels. You can check and uncheck any of those. And to make it easy, I want to filter only the beams, and then check all the grids. So I have a list of all 1022 elements. Those are the beams. And so this is the element, and this is the sticks, the 3D stick frame. For each one of these will have its own, when you right click, has its own options. So for instance, I want to change all those beams to have justification of top. So I can right click and say select all, and then you get options like this. You can replace them, or one of which, let's say you want to just change the justification, and so I'll leave it to top. You can select as many as you want, or you can apply to all 1022. So you make your change here and hit OK, and it will do all the beams, change them. Yeah, you can see here. So it did that. So this is one of the great functionality of the stick frame, that you can do massive modification, as well as let's say you want just isolate them or something, and isolate all the beams. So you can see all the beams here. You can uncheck all. Since you have a massive model, it takes some time. Let's uncheck all, and let's say I want to do only the second level. So second level, it will list 73 elements. Select all, and then isolate. It will only isolate the beams. For you want to show the columns, so you go columns, and it shows you the columns depending on what you check in here. It will list it, and also you can do it for this is the sticks, and it tells you the column, and it's the level 2, and between grid 1 and grid 2. You come here, say okay, select all, and then you can say show. It will show you if you want to change, if you want to change replace them. So you have modify. You can depending on the type, it will give you the options. You can change the height, rotation angle, and for instance, you can change the rotation angle to 90, but we don't want to do that because it's not going to be consistent. But just to show you how you can modify, so you can see it change it to 90. Let's put it back to 0. Okay, so that's the power of the stick frame, that it allows you to do a lot of visibility control and mass modification of the building, and a lot of filtering as well. You can show all. You you want to show back everything. So you have this model here. So let's try to do the floor. To do the floor, we go back to here, stick frame, refresh. We'll go back to ground floor, and let's draw the profile of the floor. Let's go back to the site from here, because you can draw around the building boundary here. So again, anything you want to draw, you don't want to select afterwards. You just set a start, and now you can draw model lines here. So this is gonna be my floor profile. You can draw any curves or model line. Okay, when you finished, you go back here and set end, and this is gonna be profile, so you call it floor profile. And make sure you save it. Okay, save it, so you can see 22 minutes and 55 seconds, and it saves it in the project file, and at the end you can make a report of that. So okay, so let's say I want to generate a floor, but so the floor would be on the if you want to generate it on the same level, or you want to make it a little bit higher, so you can go here and say floor and then Z offset 1 foot. Or if you create it from here, so this is the floor. Now it will allow you to do it from here. You see, it remembers it. So it's either if you're doing it from here or you're doing it from here, you need to set it. So I can do it from here. So I want to create this this floor here. You see, it could not load this family. Let's see. Okay, so this one is loaded, so you can do insert floor. Okay, so you want to insert the floor. Is it a structural floor and for all the levels, or you only do it for certain levels? Of course, if you have the floors are different, they're not the same, you can create as many as floor profiles with certain names. So you have the profile name here. That's why you need it here. So I want to create for all the levels. So create, and it will generate the floor based on this. So it generated the floors for all the levels. Let's see here. Maybe it shouldn't be one, but this you can. Okay, so now we can put it back to minus negative 1 foot. You can also use this modify. So type floors, select all, modify Z offset. I want to go to -1, go down 1, and it will put it back to the way. So this is also a powerful, the modify. The difference between this modify and the frame is that this has nothing to do with the frame. This is, even if you're modeling without space frame, stick frame, you can use this. If you're modeling with the stick frame, you use this. So here, this is a modification tool. You can those are, you can list all the elements by name. So this is all the elements in the project file. Now you can search by W40. So it's either, if you want auto, let's say let's try the auto. You check auto. So W, it will take some time if you have a big model. So if you don't have one, you can do auto, or if you have a big one, you can use W40 and then you hit enter. See? Okay, so you can list by name. This is all everything. So you have the name, and you have which floor on it, which level on it. Or you can list by level. So first level, and you can list it here. So once you list here, you highlight, and then you have the same options, the same option as the one in the stick frame. But again, the difference is, if you want to use if you're not using the 3D stick frame, and you just go with the normal modeling without the stick frame, you can use the modify. If you generated the stick frame, you can use this, or you can use both for the stick frame. It doesn't matter. This one does not require a stick frame to exist, but this command here requires a stick frame. Okay, so again, you can filter by level, filter by type, so it lists all the types, and you can filter by material. Again, you can use it. Once you list it here, you right click. It's either select all, or you can use with the shift or control button, and then you can select as many. Once you select the one that you want, you can right click, and then you can replace. And for floor, will give you a list of the available ones. If you want to do it from the family view, you can do it from here. Replace, you can change the color, transparency, add to group, we'll see that in the grouping. Export, we'll see that in export. And these are the visibility control commands. So it's either this or this one. This one only if you have a stick frame, it will do the same thing. For instance, you do this, you right click, will give you the same options. So that's as far as modeling, and we saw how we model it. Same thing applies. You can apply it for floors, for walls, for everything. So this has been a representation of a sample workflow. It did not cover all of the functionality of RhythmWeight. RhythmWeight is a large scale software. So there will be more videos for each functionality, how you use it, for foundations, for steel connections, for import, export, reports, and all the other functionalities. There will be separate videos, so stay tuned for any videos that will come up very soon. But this has been a brief sample workflow that will give you a taste of how you can use RhythmWeight. And again, there must be some learning curve, which is not a it's not a long curve, as opposed to learning all the Revit's functionality if you are new to Revit. So this will get you started very quickly, and see you in the next video. Thank you.